Whew. So I just got out of drink some water. Actually, it's my first time trying to psychically read what messages come through. I've never done this before. This is the first time. You'll see it after this video. Or rather, you'll see it after this. All right. So, welcome to, I'm going to be doing, as I said earlier in the introduction, there will be the actual reading itself, like reading like downloads, and I see it as a kind of a practice. Whatever images come up, there's no guarantee what they mean. I don't know what they mean yet. I'm still new to the psychic stuff and mediumship, but I hope it provides some sort of insight, and maybe some of you might get images, or like get images, might actually experience things like the things I mentioned. You'll see it. I mentioned a lot of buildings, and I saw a lot of like transportation that was I've never seen before. I don't know what that means, but it's kind of not that scary, but kind of exciting at the same time. So we'll see what that means for you guys. But nothing to be scared about. It's just, yeah, I feel like something's, I don't know what those are. And I used to kind of doubt a lot of these images I get when I close my eyes. Usually I get more from when I close my eyes. And at first I was like, I would question it because it was like, are those real? Am I just imagining those things? A few of them I would be kind of like maybe half, I don't know, are kind of imagined. But I just really just accept and surrender and just if you're aware of Suzanne Giesemann stuff, that's where I've been kind of learning, but I kind of want to take it, I took a risk and just, took it further and seeing how it might help people and tying this in possibly with this whole eclipse thing. So these spheres. Diamond shaped things. Something about catapults. Train, like a bullet train. See ground roots. Soil. People looking out in the trains, which are moving. Something with vehicles, I see windows, probably helicopters. Fields, trees, like forests. Could be a black helicopter. Someone driving. What's that? Device like inside the control panels. Some sort of ship. I don't know what that is. More trains. Out in the window, people saying hi or waving by, I don't know. Some sort of caravan or van. Somewhere in the forest. Surrounded by bushes, people waving. Keep seeing the same thing. Some sort of bus or something. will be a stop in some transportation. Keep seeing a lot of trains and transportation, something to do with transportation. Could be seeing jets, I don't know. I see a bridge. Probably the top of a dome or something. I don't know. Here's skyscraper. Like I'm on top of the city. I'm looking at it from the top. I don't know. Tall buildings. Some sort of city skyline. I don't know what that is. Or skyscrapers. I see that I mean. Like I'm getting an aerial view. A lot of buildings, like streets. Seems to be like a different flow of traffic. It's not two ways, it's kind of like a shape of a pill or something, like it goes flowing around. Is that a mushroom? What is that? Probably umbrellas or mushroom, I don't know. It looks like something like that. Triangular on top. This stem. Somewhere in a back alley. I don't know what that is. Heading towards some sort of mountainous region, like a desert maybe. You see sunlight, people walking. Probably like back alley street, kind of like between two old looking buildings, kind of dark black sort of stone, cobblestones. I don't know. Now I see sort of a pathway. towards the city again, curving out direction of the street this way. Last one I saw there was a buck. You know what that means. So, anyways, so I wanted to kind of go through this, do a kind of a mix, so see what's being said. I don't know yet, but according to the charts that I've seen, I didn't do any. For those who don't know, if you're new to my channel, I usually intuit. I try to just read what's on the page based on the notes that I have based on planets. I've been trying to do I've been trying to mix astrology with tarot, and now today I kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of assistance, see what I get. You know, what are my guides telling me? I'm still new to that, so bear with me. But you know, you're gonna get something. It's gonna be different wherever you go. Different people will get different downloads, different images. You know, because we're talking about something that I get, and maybe it'll help some of you. So it's like it's for the world. It's not necessarily like one-on-one kind of thing. So here we go. So what does it say for April 8th? You know, there's an eclipse happening. For those who don't know this, there's an eclipse happening, and it's going to bring about things, and it's going to create new beginnings for most of us, because it's going to be in the sign of Aries. But based on the charts, this is what it's going to say. Okay, so I'm going to use a different chart here. I actually got 4 event charts for this one. This is the basic one. So what I see here is you have, I haven't done this in a while. I'm going to use this one right here. So as you can see, the sun and the moon are in conjunction. Right? Oops, that's not what I want. I'm going to take that out. Okay. So the moon and the sun are in conjunction, so that means that it's going to be working with the government, the people coming together. Mind you though that this is an intercepted sign in what you see here, so ignore that. This is for the city that I'm in. But the sun and the moon are going to be in conjunct in Aries, and a lot of it is like the sun. If you remember, the sun, it rules many things. Yes, identity, but in terms of like everyday life, like mundane astrology wise, it is actually the government. So where did I put it here? So you're going to have to bear with me here. Okay, so the sun rules many things. This is the thing about technology today. It's a little slow. Okay. So it rules many things. So leaders, those in authority, like prime ministers, presidents, kings, emperors, magistrates, judges, those we listen to. It also rules palaces, so magnificent buildings, dining rooms, towers, ostentatious apartments. So anything that's like magnanimous, right? The moon rules, I would say usually the people, the common people. Anything to do with fertility as well, anything to do with um, uh, anything that represents like home, right? So homes as well, public places. I would probably include nurseries, nursing homes, probably also breweries. I'm not sure about, I would say fertility centers as well is probably included there. Oceans, lakes, that's included there for sure. Fountains, seaports, rivers, fish ponds, docks, anything that is related to water, right? So with with the moon and the sun coming together, it's in Aries. It's going to be focus a lot on pioneering things, getting things started, leadership as well, um, uh, sort of that sort of assertiveness coming through. A lot of people in the government or people who work in the government will be part of this whole picture. Um, but as you can see, Chiron is right here. So there's going to be some sort of wounding. It's always, Chiron is always about the wounding. You hear that often, right? But the thing with Chiron here, and I took some notes on Chiron here for myself. What Chiron represents on a worldly, mundane level. Let me see here. Okay, so Chiron rules healing of all types, right? So allopathic medicine and surgery to chiropractic, and all forms of homeopathy, naturopathy, soul retrieval, justice, mentoring programs, cave exploration as well, because he was centaurs in the mythology lived in caves. I believe so, yeah. Illegitimate offspring, so archeries. So something to do with also hospitals, schools, war zones, homeopathic services, medical facilities, health spas, health and wellness centers. I would say this also includes the country of Greece. Greece is somehow included in here. So in the grand scheme of the picture of the world, it's going to include like people working on health, working on their health, the government including their leadership in people and their leaders amongst the people, not necessarily government, but it could be as well as that. It could be included there. But definitely working towards healing and freedom. Because if we look at the North Node, and this is North Node in Aries, so it's about the destiny or the direction that humanity is going in right now towards its identity of like people being their own avatar, their own leadership. I heard this in a poster. It's like their own avatar, their own personal leader, but working together with people at a very local level, right? The maverick. Aries represents the maverick. Represents the one who just what do you call this? He's the one who protects, not protect, but goes for the underdog. Okay, so anything to do with that as well. There might be a lot of risk taking as well. Daredevil experience, like not necessarily like aggressive, but it could be because it is a fire sign. So Aries also rules because of Mars. It rules things like I would say like accidents. Possibly there might be accidents and wounding there, or wounding about past accidents, or wounding about societal, governmental sort of like mistakes, or maybe not literal accidents, probably like, or injuries, wounds, like cuts, armories, weaponry, and all that stuff. That's more of a Mars thing for sure, but it's still included in Aries. Okay. And then we also have this, it's actually a stellium all the way here, from North Node all the way there. It's actually all of them are just in a big, huge stellium. So they all kind of work together. And then also it's going to be including Eris and Mercury. So Eris here is going to be about here, let me go back to my notes here. So Eris rules. I have a lot of notes on Eris, like literally a lot. Okay. So Eris rules The scam artists, con artists, lawyers, executioners, commissioner of oaths. Oh, that's notary public. Okay. Um, I would say this also includes activisms, particularly like human rights, and for myself, particularly like LGBTQ activism. It also represents like something about gluing things together, coming together. Because this is Eris. Eris is about social inclusion, so it represents like gluing, coming together, cohesion, right? Collagen is probably part of this one, but I'm not really sure. This applies here. It also represents Eris, I believe, here also rules notary publics, fighters that go against the status quo. Okay, gender bending professions, women's rights advocates, female athletes, transgendered athletes, activism, I guess, like I said, human rights activism as well, social reformers. Oh, those are the people, sorry, my bad. But that it still kind of applies. According to Sedgwick's, Philip Sedgwick's stuff, he talks about eras ruling vows and promises kept and broken, elections, electional frauds, troubleshooters, authorities, deities, or God, or some sort of like new sort of like way of worship, I suppose. Chaos and disruption, dumping a closet onto the floor, that's what he said, and reorganizing things that overturn. Scales of justice, battles, disputes, famine, fightings, lawlessness. It's similar to Mars. So possibly like you probably see this on news, like like murders and quarrels and manslayings. So there's a sort of feeling of sorrow and toil, contention, rivalry, loved ones spilling of blood. Sorry to be negative here. I'm not trying to be negative here, but basically what it is these kind of things about perturbation, chaos, disharmony, right? She is the goddess of, disharmony, chaos, Eris, discord. She's the one who's like saying that, if you want this, this is what's going to happen. So there's going to be probably like arguments in the media. Social media is going to be affected, where the news is going to talk about things like, okay, well, this is what it is. So maybe it's not going to be the typical Eris approach of, if you want it, so be it. It's like pacifism. In this case, it's going to be more active, right? Eris has been in Aries for like it's going to be there for another long time, right? It's actually going to be in several years. It's already reaching the critical degrees of Aries itself. So it's going to shift into Taurus eventually, maybe after me, my generation, I don't know. But because it's conjunct Mercury, or Mercury is retrograde right now, communication is going to be a problem where people might feel like they have to be pacifist, or the opposite. It's going to be probably like extremes, right? And the people's wounding is going to bring back that up in terms of like personal freedom, individual freedoms, but as a collective. And it's going to lead us towards in a better future to kind of release things. You can see here, I don't know if you can see this one. Right here, you have actually, what is this one? Right here, this stellium right here. So all the way from North Node to Chiron conjunction, which is all up in square to Ceres. So there's going to be environmental like influences on how people behave and what they're looking for, what they really want as a society. That's general. Because Ceres is there, it's going to work. It's going to be more about. Apparently, it's epigenetics or something. So, like I said, environmental factors to how we behave. Let me go back here. it takes a while for things on technology today, and as a moon in Aquarius person, I feel like it's quite slow. It's like really slow. Today's technology is quite slow. And that's because of just, I don't know, maybe because it's my laptop or something like that. But it's very, yeah. So let's go back to Ceres and let's look at where Ceres is. Okay, so Ceres is, as you may already know, Ceres rules. Um, she's rules the seasons. So with it up squaring with its Ceres, I'm gonna close this other one. I don't need that one. Okay, with Ceres being in Capricorn, it's going to be issues about around security and old things, traditions. So I would say seasonal changes. I'm not getting the right information here because there's so much information, and I'm just doing this to myself. This is part of what I do. Okay, let's take a look. So we have Apollo, Coronis, Cassandra. Okay, so Ceres is self-love, right? But because it's about self-love, it's about basic needs like I would say like medical care is probably going to be part of that. I'm not really sure, but for sure, marriages, weddings, fertility rights, traditions, parent-child relationships, parental care, guardianships, fertile soil, agriculture. So agriculture is the one big thing that people are probably going to work together with in that whole sun-moon conjunction. Painting and wounding through past ways of how we treated the earth. I mean, Ceres is still now in Capricorn, so it has a lot to do with the earth as well. So matter, physical things, but it actually Capricorn rules like really like older traditions, anything sort of like conservation stuff, and Capricorn also rules anything to do with institutions like like faith-based institutions could be that anything that's traditional, anything that's like old and like I would say outdated possibly, structures in governments like actual infrastructures possibly as well. Okay, so there's going to be like when it coming up in terms of like the old systems and how we take care of ourselves. Are we gonna go into a new sort of system? Is it gonna be a different infrastructure? Aries there is kind of like that whole Aryan energy there is kind of with Ceres there it's kind of pulling back and saying maybe let's go back to things that were that traditions that possibly help us. Okay. There's going to be definitely like cycles, seasons are going to be part of this whole thing. Farms, part of it as well. Um, Single parent household is part of it as well. Common law, issues with common law. So yeah, that probably is common law, human activists, right? So common law, not necessarily with LGBT, but also like single parent households or like kind of that whole with the old system of care and self-care, like being able to take care of yourself. It's kind of like removing that and kind of, or rather questioning it. And new ideas are probably going to come through, especially with Eris there, conjunct Mercury. But it's going to be more like some sort of internal processing that I think people will go into and kind of communicate with each other on a more private level rather than publicly. So social media might be a bigger thing rather than just big news. The news might not even get everything because it is retrograde. So it's going to be more in the private sectors. I find that that's what it is with retrograde. I feel like it's more private sectors because it's internal. So anything, any kind of farm, usually like fruit farms, this is probably going to bring in new ideas also of like farming. Um, so permaculture might be something that's brought up again permaculture is still kind of like in a way sort of an underdog. Any sort of underdog stuff like that. Um, Areas regarding farms, of course. I put here thanatology, which is like the study of dying, and that kind of ties in with Capricorn because it's the old and like karmic stuff with, probably we're talking about the older generations dying off, not necessarily literally, but kind of like their old ways are kind of like. Psh. But at the same time, with Ceres, they're making us questions like, this is, if you look at Ceres, she was the goddess of season, so that means that things might come back that actually will help us, and it's up to us to whether to question and pick out which one helps us to move forward into the future, right? Something to do with funeral homes, so that's another one there. I don't know about animal sacrifice, but vast acres of land is going to be part of the whole thing. Arable land is going to be kind of an issue as well. Okay, so yeah, probably countries that might be affected here. I can see are places with arable lands. So that could include Canada, that includes Russia, Mongolian steppes, Bangladesh, says here, Denmark, Ukraine, Moldova, India, Hungary, Rwanda, Comoros, Togo, Gambia, the United States, of course, China, Brazil, Nigeria. So anything to do with those kind of things. So anything to do with marriages, like I said. So maybe new ideas about unions, marriages, or how families are in general. Guardianship as well. And like I said, farming is also included here, and also, yeah, it's also with thanatology because it's like changes, new cycles, right? So there's a winter, so it's like death, right? So changes are definitely going to come about. But people are going to feel this sort of like push, like should we go forward and go for something new altogether and abandon the old ways or not? Like which of that do we take forward and which do we just leave behind? Okay. I also have here quincunx to Orcus. So it's going to be a question. Oh, Orcus is in retrograde. You can see that right here. With Orcus in retrograde, it's going to be making us question like our own, like how true we are to what we really want. So any sort of form of contracts, that legal agreements might be part of the whole issue as well. Something to do with the law pertaining to, let's take a look here, pertaining to, yeah, agreements or oaths, anything that we kind of promise, like, or rather what the, let's take a look, because it's quincunx, the sun, and the sun, and actually, no, 14 degrees. Oh, it's quincunx north node. Okay, so with the direction we're heading, like in terms of like, how are we going to be honest about it? So there's going to be, especially in like, in this case, because it is Orcus in retrograde, private sectors, places where, like I think kind of like more personal level, like people. Let's see, what is it? Okay, so it's in Virgo. So anything to do with the little things. So little organizations, little maybe nonprofit organizations, the other underdogs, like kind of moving forward in terms of how do we move forward with being honest with our own personal health and well-being. Virgo rules earthly stuff as well, but it rules medicine, right? Virgo rules medicine. Virgo rules apparently the little things, labor forces, possibly included in that one. And when I say possibly, I do things a little differently when it comes to the astrological information. So what else does Orcus rule here? Okay. Oh, okay. So near-death experiences might be part of an issue as well with the hospitals because Chiron is another ruler. It rules Virgo, so it's something to do with hospitals. It's people experiencing near-death experiences, realization of inner truths, or possibly downloads. This is what they were talking about. It's funny because people might be like getting things that are like, ooh, the truth. And because because the North Node is in Aries, it's always gonna. It has a spiritual aspect to it. It has an intuitive aspect to it. So that means it's going to be possibly like heading towards downloads, because the direction quincunx to Orcas in retrograde. It's going to be an internal experience. It's going to be a personal experience as well for people. Um, so if you get downloads and you're open to it, if you get apparently new skills are going to be part of it. Like when I say new, I mean sorry, not new. Returning of past life skills that we think we've lost through either through our ancestral line or through past lives itself. Apparently, it's going to come through, and it's funny because they say past lives. That ties in with the moon as well. So here we have conjunct the moon. So that makes sense why it is going to be like that. What else do we have? So let's take a look. What else? A sextile to that doesn't apply there. So Mercury and Eris are going to be square Pluto, and Pluto is in Aquarius, as many of you already know. So it's going to be a lot of power struggles in terms of questioning of truth and then getting tested. It's going to feel like testy. It's going to feel like when it comes to specifically like questioning of where do I belong, and people are going to communicate that through kind of my personal levels, like maybe like I said earlier, in little groups or little organizations that are like underdog organizations but pioneering organizations possibly. Again, because Mercury is news and media or the communications, it's going to be more in the private sector. So not necessarily private, but more like between groups, like these sort of, not the public general, like what's popular. Technology is also going to be an issue there, or planning, it's going to be affecting technology because you have Pluto in Aquarius as well, so it's going to be shifting of and transforming of technology, advancements, and science, okay, those kind of things. And it's because it's square Mercury Eris, activism towards those changes are going to also come through. Possibly come through. I would say, like Pam Gregory said, like astrology is a language of probability. That's it for I'm focusing on the placement of the moon and the sun, right? Because the moon and the sun here, because it's in the eclipse, it's going to be, that's the focus we want. But we have to also look into Mars, because Mars rules Aries. So any of these planets right here, including the North Node and Venus actually, is ruled by Mars. So now we're going to include a little bit of Venus here as well. To relationships, Venus is relationships, Venus is self-worth, Venus is money matters. It rules Taurus. It also rules things that are pleasurable, things that like are leisurely, pleasurable things like spas, getaways, hotels, accommodations, anything that's pleasing, anything to do with arts as well, so art galleries, theaters, okay, those kind of things. Anything to do with like feeling really good and sensual, and anything to do with charms as well, anything to do with that makes it that's kind of charming, any place that's charming, any place that's beautiful, that's, so anything like nature is part of that as well, of course. With Venus, before we go into Mars, Venus is actually conjunct Neptune. And what that means is going to be a lot of possible, either it goes either way. Like, they're both placid planets, so that means that they are both about illusions and like charm and kind of that whole like a veil of like making things look something else than they're not versus so there's illusions kind of like charm and what do you call that? I don't want to be all negative, but like manipulation, but possibly. Like basically, it's a twisting of the reality, right? Venus and Neptune. Neptune is a higher vibration of Venus, so working together, they're giving us what we want, basically. And Neptune is right at home in Pisces in the last critical degree, so a lot of disillusionment that might happen because of the square. It's to Vesta, but at the same time, it's going to be also illusionment. I don't know if that's the right word for that, but it's going to give us sort of this feeling of like we want to escape as well. It's also about escapism. Right? Neptune rules things like magic, things that are of illusions. I wanted to look back into my chart. Like, if I wish I had like two computers here, so that way I would work with that. But Neptune rules other things like, let me double check here. Okay, so music, poetry, cameras, okay, addictions, of course, telepathy, probably. So this is where I think telepathy might come through. Well, there's an intuitive connection and downloads. In terms of relationships, possibly that might happen because it is in Pisces. Pisces is the most intuitive sign in the zodiac. And with it conjunct Venus, but Venus is already in Aries, it's going to feel like there's going to be this push towards escapism probably through relationships or escaping from relationships. It can go either way, right? Because it's also in Pisces, it's a vacillating sort of feel. It's a transitionary sign before it gets into a more assertive Aries. It's going to feel like, probably we feel like we don't know what to decide. We don't know who to trust, probably. I don't know, there's going to be issues about escapism away from or to relationships or anything that we value. Maybe things that are beautiful, maybe through drugs, alcohol, sex, you name it, shopping, money spending, frills, all of that, anything that had to do with Venus. So those two together is quite quite a seductive sort of pull. But with Venus in Aries, it's going to be kind of like an aggressive approach towards. It's actually in detriment, I believe. Is it fall or detriment? Either way, it's going to be a different sort of Venus energy. People are not going to be able to relate with each other in a very sort of loving way. But that's up to personal choice, right? When I say these things, I don't mean like this is it and this is... No, we have to make choices. Be aware of that energy, that it's like you feel aggressiveness towards relationship and anyone you talk to, or even yourself. Probably this tension that's like just pull to just push. You have to sit with it. You really have to sit with it. You have to lean into it. You have to accept the fact that that's what the feeling is, and then don't give in to what the ego wants. It's not that the ego is wrong, it's just that the ego is always afraid. It's always afraid. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so Venus, but so the placement of Neptune and Venus in conjunction, they're going to work together to kind of either push us towards the brink of like so much delusion and escapism, and it's going to feel like that. But it's also going to be because it's also Neptune rules addiction and escapism. Places like prisons are going to be possibly a point where relationships might flourish, or rather, there's a sort of like maybe a supportive network to work in those places. Something to do with prisons, places of isolations, mm, quiet places, maybe forests. I don't know, sort of anything sort of like in that regard. Like it's places of also that's water related. So that's but places of water that is far from people, far from the populace, the general populace. It's going to be, but with Venus there, it's almost like a kind of a contrasting thing because Venus is about relationships. So maybe, I don't know, something to do with marriages and contracts regarding, like contracts pertaining to imprisonments or confinements, places of confinements that may be liberated because it's in Aries, it's probably have a different idea. But let's look at the square to Vesta. Its square to Vesta is showing that Vesta is about sacredness. So I'm going to look into my own notes with Vesta, and Vesta is not just about sacredness, sacred places basically. So are we? It's making me feel like it's there's going to be some questioning about how we should honor these places of maybe isolation, places of reflection, so probably places of like retreats probably, and it's sort of like kind of in a way spiritual retreats might be a part of it, part of a thing too. But because Vesta is devotion, Vesta rules not just sacred places. Okay, here we go. So yes, sacred places, but also let's take a look. Okay, so anything to do with hearts, something that with stone masonry is probably included there. Service centers. Okay, that's a big one. Probably like temples, worship centers. Service centers, temples or churches probably is probably included there as well. Anything that feels sacred. Heating industry is probably part of this one as well. So any sort of sacrifices to, yeah, maybe sacrificial places. I don't know, not necessarily literal sacrifices, but I wouldn't exclude it. Labor work, especially of love, anything to do with love, like people that love to, things that, places where people love to work. Let's see here. Anything to do with purity, anything to do with purifying, anything to purity sort of related places that we go to escape towards. Because of the Neptune Venus placement with square Vesta, people are probably gonna look for and question like, where do I go? I don't know where to go. I don't know how to, maybe people might feel disillusioned, or they might question their own self-worth and be like, well, I don't know where to go. Where do I find places to escape to I can, or the opposite, which is like complete abandonment of like what is pure and sacred, maybe a disrespect towards that. So you can see there's actually some, I saw this people, I don't know if it was a recent thing, but I feel like maybe people vandalizing that. But because of the Aries energy there, possibly, people might fight for that. So I don't know, maybe they're against it. So because of the square might teach us to kind of not be, we wonder if we're going to be open to it. But there's another thing about Vesta. Vesta rules Kundalini energy. And Kundalini energy is pure chi energy that I personally, I don't know if I've ever felt it, but I don't know. It's apparently it's like this heated feeling. I don't know if I've ever felt it. To be honest, I don't know exactly what it is. But apparently to people that I've talked to, it's this feeling of this purification sort of, I don't know if it's purification, but it's like this, comment on write in the comments below what if you've ever experienced Kundalini energy. But that's what it is. So people are probably going to be experiencing more of that, but also questioning it. It's like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. So they feel like they want to run away from that energy. So it might be a little scary for some, especially for those who've never experienced it. I don't know. I might experience it. I don't know, but you got to be open to it and be, accepting of it. So now let's go into Mars. So Mars is currently with conjunct with Saturn in Pisces. So all traditions when it comes to belief. Apparently this is, because it's in Pisces, it has a lot to do with belief systems, but it's not like Sagittarius where it's like, okay, organizations. No, Pisces is apparently this is where we have the word disillusionment. Pisces is the one that's going to either create that away from us, like with older traditions, anything that's old, karmic traditions, any sort of older structures. With Mars there, it's going to feel like this is a lot to do with probably like military forces, old structures that are militant, old structures regarding hospitals as well. So not necessarily health, but in general, like hospitals. So yeah, that's all I can generally say about that one. But with Mars ruling all these planets right here, it's going to create a lot of that. There's a new thing going on, but at the same time, there's going to be a sort of like a dissolving, I would say, because it is water. There's going to be a dissolving of the old and a rebirth of fire. Because if you look at Pisces, Aries energy, it's like a new birth. It's transition from what was not dealt with on a karmic level, and then new opportunities to work through that. But Mars is Mars conjuncting Saturn is actually opposite Orcus, so it's helping us to tap into ourselves, inner worth. It's like, what does that mean? So to be honest with it, instead of like, maybe this is the other part where it's like we probably can go back to the way it was before and sort of these old, weird delusional beliefs about old systems, and then kind of we fight for it. But Orcus is telling us to kind of question, we question the integrity of those systems. This is really what it's saying here. But when we question it, it also means that we kind of see, again, which one do we keep and which one do we get rid of. I just look at Mars there because of Saturn, because Mars rules Aries, and Aries, the planets, these planets are in Aries, so that's the one that is a big one. We all know about the placement. Many of us probably have heard the placement, maybe, I don't know, of Jupiter, Uranus here. Conjunct, it's just bringing expansion of sudden changes, and specifically when it comes to farming or anything beautiful, anything with nature, anything that's pleasurable, anything like vineyards is probably included in that one. Food, the restaurant businesses, food industry, markets, anything to do with pleasure, anything to do with money as well. I'm going to be changing the monetary system. That's actually happening, apparently. Ignore this right here because this doesn't apply to everyone. This just applies to the city I'm in. And yeah, so that's it. It's just Jupiter's making it bigger, these changes. That's why some people are experiencing around the world like shutdowns in electricity, or electricity bills going up. And that's a common thing as well. I've been my that's probably one of the things as well. So because they're jacking up the prices because of fear, right? And if we go back to Saturn here, fear is fear of the military, fear of not just military, fear of accidents, fear of going forward, fear of losing what was in our own personal beliefs. That's what's this Mars, this Saturn placement here as well. And it's going to be kind of a focus because of Mars there. It's going to be this focus. People are going to be focused and be like, eh. So, but it's a choice, right? Do you focus on the negative or do you focus on love, right? So, and it's not means that you don't deal with negativity. It means that you process it internally. And the Orcus is really right there telling us, like, they're working on the little things, right? Orcus is telling us to be honest with ourselves from the heart, right? Even though it's in Virgo here, it can still be about heart. It's about pure intention, the little things. We look at the little things and be more grounded in them, and this is Earth. We kind of figure out, okay, then it's about being, Earth is connected to nature, so that means it's also about being present. So I would say that that opposition there, even though it's an opposition, because we want to be honest with ourselves and look at the little things and kind of maybe serve other people and help others. Maybe people might question, like, well, how do I help the world? How do I help my fellow neighbor, my fellow, partner, whatever it is, right? How do I do that when I'm like afraid of all these changes? But remember that these changes are a good thing. It is scary, so don't deny that. Don't suppress that. Don't resist it. I'm just saying, I'm speaking mostly for myself. And it's like, it can be scary, but one of the things I've always said is like surrender. But then I had a friend who said it's like, it's better to probably use a different word. Well, she didn't say it this way, but the way I processed it was the whole, maybe I'm using the wrong word. So the word surrender is, I should change it. So I did change it. And instead of looking at the word surrender, looking at, why don't you just like forgive and accept? But that's like my subconscious understanding of those words, those concepts. Right? So for you, surrender might be totally okay. But for me, surrender feels like I'm just giving up. Right? So there is a bit of surrender to it, but like by changing the wording, and wording is important. Language is important. We have to be aware of that. Which actually ties in with this whole thing with Mercury ruled Virgo, and it's also being careful with our language and how we approach our own understanding of what concepts are to us on the personal level. Right? The little things accumulate. It's part of the whole big picture as well. It's not separate. And that's that. I want to jump into this other chart where it shows me little interesting asteroids that I like. Some of them I haven't really worked with, but that's fine. So we have here several things. We have the Mars, a Saturn thing. Again, it's the fear thing. If you look back into the old chart, if you imagine it, it's going to be about fear, about like that will be the focus, right? Fear of loss, fear of like isolation. Again, I don't want that one. So it's going to be that focus. But we also have the trine to Hybris and Narcissus. So probably people are going to feel like, or you're going to sense it in others that it's like, there's sort of a power thing here, and we're going to be feeling like a lot of like hubris. Basically what it is. It's going to feel like we're going to be super proud of our own, like, I don't know, it could be like the changes in the government. It's going to be changes in old systems, and we kind of maybe might feel like, oh, well, yeah, we're doing a good job. We kind of like feel like maybe excessive pride, if I feel like ego might be inflated as well. And also ties in with Saturn, because Saturn rules the 10th house. It's also about reputation. So, but on a mundane level, this is about not just hubris itself or pride, it is also about, let me see what I put in here. Oh, people with behaving, wanton behavior. It's wanton behavior, um, physical or verbal abuse. Okay, megalomania is also part of this one. Be careful of that. Watch out for that. Playing God as well. The project's undertaken beyond capability or ability and skill because it's pride, right? Over rewarding or under rewarding. Okay, overpraise and unrecognized achievements. Winkler's intellectual celebrity syndrome. Okay, I'm better than you because I know more than you. Like I know. So when we get into this whole thing about Saturn and the whole like disillusion of like this old structures, it's also going to be like, well, I know more than you because this is science based. This is going to be, this is going to be what's new now. So fuck you, old stuff, and this word. So I'm spiritual. So there's where, okay, because it's in Scorpio, it's going to be a lot about yes transformation, but it also rules. Scorpio would also rules in because of Pluto and Mars. Anything to do with possibly like force and military, probably hospitals, probably part of that as well. Funeral homes, possibly. I don't know. There's something to do with death and fear. That's the eighth house stuff. But it's also, what is it? Taxes might be part of the issue as well, because it is tax season in general in North America, that is, in general. And it's going to be, so taxes, trust funds, money that you share with your partners, or even family, people that you trust, but definitely a lot of those trust issues as well. So again, with those awards and rewarding, so maybe, I don't know, reward systems might be part of the whole thing with anything that we take pride in, really, right? So it's funny here. It says that thing that we take pride in, but hurts and harms and even injures others, which also includes fraudulent behavior, or fraudulence or corruption. Okay, climbing the social ladder or the economic ladder. Dog eat dog. The dark triad, as I put in here. Antisocial behavior, internet trolling, violent delinquency, cybercrime, politically correct, authoritarianism, anti-immigrant prejudice, social dominance orientation, extreme political views, aggression, racism, bullying, entitlement, in any way, sexuality, gender, sex, culture, social, generational entitlement. Centers of attraction, attention, and pride, skyscrapers. That's where the skyscrapers came in. Okay. Extravagant showcasing structures. Okay, so that's why I saw those buildings. That was interesting. That's very interesting. Okay. I put here NPD. I forgot what NPD is. I don't know. I forgot what that is, but it's NPD. Something to do with NPD. Correct the comments below if you want to tell me what NPD stands for again. Something to do with anything extravagant, like prideful, sort of. That's better hubris, right? I did not finish the information I got from Narcissus, but it definitely has a lot to do with similar to hubris. So that's the main point. But power structures, those in power, those who probably are, corruption is probably going to be an issue. So it's naturally going to flow in with what we're afraid of. But whenever something comes through, remember when you have a trine aspect, it's something that flows, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a positive flow all the time. In this case, it's kind of like a fear-based flow. It's like, and people are going to feel that. But we have here an opposition to change in this opposition. So now it's our choice. Do we accept that change or do we not accept that change? Do we give into the fear or do we move in with the changes? Uranus is big this year. So I feel like Uranus kind of crashing down and really like breaking apart all that's old structure, but also old systems from regarding farming, regarding relationships, money systems, monetary system, trade, possibly as well, stock market, because that's something to do with money as well. I think Taurus rules that as well. Old systems regarding anything pleasurable, right? And because Venus rules Taurus here, when we look at Venus in Aries, it's going to push that change right here. Like Aries is going to make it sort of like a lot of pioneering done, a lot of like assertive initiatives that are being taken to change this old system. So I'm glad I'm seeing this now. So fuck all that scary stuff. It's not that big. It's just old system trying to like right? Who the fuck cares? Right? And you really have to say it that way because like it's not about being angry, it's about saying that it's like it's just a system and humanity is waking up to shake things up. We are also choosing that. Okay. There's another chart here. I'm going to make sure I don't get that one. Okay, so we have here also risky behavior. Risky behavior in terms of how we, Eris is right there too. Risky behavior in terms of like how we go about, achieving what we want. Because, if you look at this in the mythology of Icarus, he went all the way up into the heavens, thought that he could just fly. So overconfidence, that ties in with the megalomania thing as well. On a mundane level, anything to do with premature agreements, plane crashes, okay, sorry to say that, but it could be possible. Drownings, unverified flights or takeoffs, unverified, unauthorized launches or agreements. I think that's what I was seeing too. Something to do with flights, but that was strange. I didn't see aircrafts that I've never seen before. So possibly like new things coming through, new technology coming through. Caught in the crossfire. Okay, those caught in the crossfire. Child abuse might be part of this as well. Inherited diseases, inherited physiological, biological traits, heredity, aerodynamics. Okay, that's the one that came through. Okay, I see it. Survival kits, survivorship, planes, birds. So planes. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were like issues with planes, right? So, right. So, but it's a lot of it is risk taking in terms of how we approach wounding towards our freedom, because it's like maybe, and this is where this opposition comes in. I saw this earlier and I was like, ooh, look at that, Eos. Eos is about new beginnings, except Eos is in retrograde. So that means we have this sort of like questioning. Maybe it's more of a new beginnings for like on a personal level. Again, maybe there's private sectors, maybe new things, new establishments, new ideas, renewals, okay. It also deals with past regrets. So if we don't deal with woundings, it feels like we're going to be like ignoring it, and it's just going to come up and come up and come up, right? EOS also rules new insights, so it's something to do with, so new things. It rules so renewal contracts, relocating unvisited places, retirement homes, old age, youth centers, YMCA, YWCA, I put that in here. Anti-aging industry, ads promoting false or fake love, beauty departments, simple or meaningless dating apps or websites, multi-age dating sites, cosmetics industry, new editions of books, revisions in literature, or any revision, article retraction possibly. Article retraction ties in with this one, with the with Mercury there. Right. So if you look back to this and we take this, Mercury's conjunct Icarus right there with Eris. So it's with Eris there, it's kind of bringing forward the whole truth thing in terms of like, it's false news basically, the false news that we probably are going to get. But there's going to be probably a pull from that because it's going to be renewed. It's going to be like, you can't deal with it. It's in Aries. So it's going to be like, speak the fucking truth out, right? So there's going to be a new dawning, right? Dusk to dawn, that's also part of EOS. Geriatrics, gerontology, so part of the old systems, part of like old to new, that's really what EOS is, which actually ties in with the Mars Saturn placement. It's just funny right here, right? So, you didn't see that right here. So, and that makes total sense. But with the opposition again to EOS, it's going to be kind of questionable. It might be kind of, what's going on here? Are we working through the old stuff? Are we working through our wounding? I think that also ties in with, because it's Aries, it's going to be new things. Apparently there was a video, I'm going to put it in the link below. There was this interview about, they were talking about, we might get these new downloads and like, or skills that we lost. And then again, I mentioned it earlier too, but it's in the video they were talking about in the interview with what is it? Something New Soul podcast, I don't know. Anyways, I'll put it in the link below. I highly suggest you watch it. And they're talking about these new skills, or rather skills that we are meant to get back again, especially for those who are open to it and, surrendering to it or really accepting it. And just like, and I think this is a time for self-forgiving, right? Because we have here identity. Again, we go back to the sun, it rules identity. So wounding of a collective identity in who we are and where we're headed. And I think that's very important, because we can't experience the newness if we don't work with the old. And this ties in a lot with what's going on here with earlier on with the, what was it in this chart right here? Series in Capricorn, right? So bringing in the old and the new, the shifting of the seasons, the shifting. So, and we kind of question that, but we have to go with the flow with everything. Go back to this other chart here. So a lot of placements with other, I think this is very important. With all of this, all right here, from North Node all the way to Eris, and, Eris is right here, okay, it's also 24 degrees here. North Node all the way to Mercury, square both child and Clytia. So Clytia, child, first of all, is a childlikeness. It's really about being childlike, being innocent, being, if I look into my notes here, which I'm going to anyways, okay, child is all the way, where did I have child? Okay, unconditional love, really what it is, right? It's connection to source and spirit, wholeness, unconditional love, natural influence and magnetism, source consciousness, channeling, inspiration, expression, leading by example, genuine leading by example. Okay, sun like aloneness. It's not really aloneness, but like, and it's awareness, it's neutrality, rising above conditions. So really that's what I got, because when you look at the numerology of, you look at child, and it's 4580, the number. I looked at that, and I looked at the other numbers, the statistics from the astronomical data. Numbers that come up, 8. Okay, actually I'm going to just say all of them. There's 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 11. So 11 is a master number. It's one of child's number. So that means it's all about connecting. It's really connecting, right? And it rules, I would say, if anything, there's a lot of other asteroids that kind of connect to the pineal gland. And I also wrote here a bunch of other stuff that's more medical stuff. But we're going to go into the mundane here. So children, innocence, babies, toddlers, preconditioned state. Okay, unconditional love in all forms, purity, genuineness, trust and faith in God and natural knowing and wisdom, channeling, seeing the beauty in everything, curiosity, true freedom within, unadulterated sources, undiluted liquids, curious animals, exploration, nature. It's very much anything childlike. Cribs is probably part of one of this. So anything to do with child's maybe like daycare centers is probably this one as well. And anywhere where there's nurses working, pediatricians, daycare, like attendants, workers, teachers, okay, authors of children's books, children's publications, probably part of that as well. And that ties in actually with the Mercury placement here. That's interesting, right? Right here. So risk taking to be more childlike, and it's still in Capricorn. In fact, actually, I believe Ceres is 17 degrees, so it's conjunct Clitia. So Clitia is unrequited love. But it's also about deep emotions. Actually, I should put that. Deep emotions, love in vain, jilted by lovers. Basically, if you look at the story of Clitia, she was abandoned by Helios because Helios was apparently forced to leave her. But she had this sort of undying devotion and love for Helios. But it's really about self-love. It's figure out what you love about yourself instead of projecting that onto others. And unrequited means that you can also be vengeful and say the wrong things, right? On a mundane level, this is what I discovered. Divorce, no-fault divorces, marital abandonment, spousal abandonment syndrome, runaway spouses, jealous exes, ex-lovers, crime of passion. Okay, legally speaking, it's insanity defense, temporary insanity, irresistible impulse, provocation, extramarital sex and affairs, mistresses, pious religious followers as well, because it's about devotion. Okay, devout religious people, patriotism, Europatriotism probably included there as well. Any sort of patriotism, national loyalty, nationalism. I'm not sure about lackeys. I don't know. Pedestals, something about anthropophilia, way too much love of humanity. Flowers, violets, heliophilia, the love of the sun, and sunflowers. How this ties in with, I would say, Ceres is like that whole loving of ourselves. It's really focused on self-love. Right, if you really just look at it from on a simple level, because Clitia here is conjunct Ceres. So it's loving of ourselves in creating that foundation, because it's in Capricorn, and building that and figuring out what that means. But with the new things that are coming up, how do we learn to love ourselves when wounding is coming up? Right, wounding of with people, the collective, and what the governments are saying, the news is saying, and we're being tested for it. And then what kind of action do we take? Do we take risks? So, and deep wounding. And so all these things that are kind of confusing, are people going to be like questioning it? So, and then at the same time, like, how do we be childlike? How do we be childlike and create that foundation for ourselves? Build. It is in Capricorn, so it is about succeeding in that as well. It's about success, it's about vocation, it's about your reputation. Like, so do we kind of like, what's my reputation? So I would say let go of all the ego stuff, and it's don't deny the ego, don't resist the ego, just say like, sit with it and be like, okay, ego, I hear you, you're right there, and that's it. There's another placement here. This one's also excessive pride with Niobe. Right here. Astraea. Astraea is, what is Astraea? Responsibility. Liberating values. Okay. Yeah, so morality. Okay. So with that in conjunct Apollo, it's your morality, your own personal values, liberating values of living with life. Apollo is about living life. But so we question that whole, like, how do we live life when we have all these things going on all at once, right? The old wounding, and we're supposed to change. And so it's going to be kind of quite heavy and quite loaded. We actually have here, if you see it, if you can really see it, right here. Okay, actually I think Eos is 23 degrees Libra. Okay, it's not, okay, so it's different, okay. But it's going to have that effect. One is going to be like Eos with new relationships, new beginnings, so new in terms of like equalities. Eos, I didn't mention that it's because it's in Libra, so it's going to be equality. So which ties in a lot with the Eris factor here. That when Eris was here, 24 degrees conjunct Mercury. What else is there? So there's, oh yeah, so there's right here, you can see this. There's this grand fix, as a grand cardinal square. This grand cardinal square thing that you see between, okay, Astra Ea. So again, moral values. I want to see what else I actually put in here. Just 1 second here. Astra Ea also rules. Okay, so she's basically like Libra. Scales, seesaws, evenly paved roads, the law. But Astraea is different to Libra in a way that she's about like, it's like, yeah, it's pretty much like Libra on like real Libra. I don't know. It's not about relationship, that's about equality. Okay. Lagoons is part of this one. Balances scales, vegetation, gardens, ecosystems. Okay, so something to do with ecosystems. Permaculture is part of this one as well because Astraea is, what is this one? According to the myth, she was the one who, she's the one who left the Iron Age because humanity was being corrupt. So she wanted to be purely for this, what is that one? Being pure for the law or something? I don't know if it's a saying or something like that. It's kind of like that. So in a way, it's kind of like Virgo, Libra combined. So the energy of Astraea is all about that whole like having a really healthy, connected to Gaia sort of systems. What is this here? Dharma is also included here, I would say so. Equilateral shapes, bridges. So anything to do with balance, anything to do with purity and balance. Vestibular research, that's interesting. Neuroanatomy. So anything to do with those, I will not be surprised that that's probably what's happening. That we are going to probably see that. Maybe, let's take a look at it. So 12, 13, okay, it's only square all the way to Chiron. So our own values with how to actually maybe developing our own values, particular family values right here, which is in Cancer. Right? Astraea is in Cancer and Apollo is also in Cancer. Niobe is there too, but looking at Astraea Apollo conjunction, this whole thing, this is actually just a T square. T square to Clytia. So Clytia there is probably like there's going to be a rejection of old systems, or we feel like maybe the old system, we feel kind of abandoned by it, and at the same time figuring out how we develop our own belief systems about what we're going to head towards, especially with this. So family, Cancer, opposite of Capricorn, it's going to feel like there's an imbalance because one is like, we relied on the systems for so long, and all of a sudden, so now it's time for us to kind of like own it and say, how do we have our own family system? How do we create that inside? How do we create our own new history, our own new heritage with coming forward to this new pioneering energy that is Aries, right here. Right? So with the grand, with this grand cardinal square, you have all the planets right here. That includes Eris as well. Square child, and child is square Eos, and Eos is square Niobe. Well, Niobe is excessive pride. She was the one who bragged to that she was prettier or something like that. She Leto, the mother of Apollo and Artemis. So she was the one who said, "I have more children than you do. I have 7 sons. I have 7 daughters. So I'm a better mother than you." So she was punished for it. What that really means, of course, is that when you have too much of, like, it's almost like you lack appreciation. That kind of pride that goes up opposite of actual gratitude and appreciation. That's the way I understand Niobe for now. I don't have a lot of her right now because I didn't finish the research on her. But basically, that's something to do with excessive pride, with maybe like ancestral pride. Maybe that's kind of gonna come into the surface. But how do we become more childlike? So there's a polarity between these signs right here, where the planets are concerned. It's opposing each other. So one is the old systems, one is about being cold about it, and the other one is about motion, or one is structure. Both are actually about structure and security, but one is outer and one is inner, if that makes any sense. But with this one right here, this opposition right here to Niobe and child, that in itself is like being appreciative of what you already have, being like in a present moment. Niobe is just like, no, the opposite of that. But it pertains to security. And with it inside this whole grand cardinal square, it's like there's these like challenges coming through, and it's like, how do we become present? How do we appreciate what we already have and help us move forward so that we become open to this new thing? So it's also reminding us to, it's this thing that where it's like, okay, things are coming back. Apparently we're supposed to get all these, a return of skills and abilities and things we didn't know we lost. But questioning it, because people feel like, oh, I don't know if it's going to be something that I'm open to because it's kind of scary. I'm used to the old systems and all that stuff because that's comfortable, right? Niobe is going to be probably excessive pride in the comfort of what's already there, the structures. So you see what I mean? So there's this dichotomy going on. There's this like huge pull and huge challenges that are coming to us. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be bad challenges. Challenges are a good thing because it keeps us awake. When you get comfortable, I saw this in a video, when you get comfortable is when shit starts to happen. We don't want that. We want to be awake, and we want to be elevated. So I think that's it for now. I thought this was a very interesting reading. Like, I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's where it is. Oh, I forgot to mention Amalthea. And Themis is actually up square Mars, Saturn conjunct. Again, ignore the 12th house thing. There's nothing to do with that. So Themis is order. Amalthea is also order. So they both have to do with order. Let me double check here. Sorry. Themis is oracles, visions, predictions. Themis was the counselor, basically, or the oracle of Olympus. I didn't finish any information on that, but so far I've got like peacekeeping, warnings, signs, omens, prophecies. Whereas Amalthea, I finished that one. And true abundance, right? So if you look at the constellation Auriga or something like that, Auriga, he holds a goat beside him. Right, he represents who was that hero? It's a long Greek name. I don't remember the name, but it was like, so it presents the support and the guidance we get from the abundance that is like from the milk of the universe. And so this is what it's actually Capricorn is part of that. Wisdom is part of that. That's why when Amalthea was turned into a constellation, apparently is today's constellation Capricorn, which is Capra back then. It meant something else though. Not was it Capra or sea goat? It's the same thing. But sea goat is this whole. The reason why now I understand why there's a sea goat is like, why does he have a fish tail and a goat body? That's because it talks about the story of this I think it was a son of Apollo or something like that. He had deformed legs or deformed feet, and he hid it, or I wouldn't say partially hiding it. I wouldn't say so, but he made use of it so that he can. He created the first chariots, so he knew how to work with the disability. So that's part of the whole thing with Amalthea. It represents working with that, finding wisdom in the pain and the loss, right? So that's true abundance because you're being, like open to the possibilities. And with with Themis there in conjunct, there's a square to like how we approach these fears that we're apparently going to be focusing on. And like, how do we become present and be grateful for that? So the theme here is changes and fear and being present. A lot of it is that, right? If you notice it. So the planets are showing us different ways to be present, be more childlike, be more just here and now, and just really like surrender and or forgive and also accept, especially accept the things that are going on. I wanted to go into the reading of the cards and see what they have here. Okay. Let's see what the cards have for us. If you can see my face, I don't know if I can see my face. Sometimes I'm looking at these things, I don't know if I'm... Yeah. Okay, we're going to go back into the main view there. I don't know if that one wants to come out. Sometimes when you think something comes out and you feel like, anyway, there's never a wrong thing. Right? So, okay, I'm going to take that out. Okay, that one popped out, so that means I'm going to take that. Okay. Okay, that one came out. I wonder what the number is today. Today is April 1, 2024. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 plus 2 is 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 4. 4 is the number today. So I'm gonna draw out 4 cards. I want things to pop out. Okay, yes, that's the one. Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right. So I don't know what spread this is going to give us, but I'm going to take a look and see what spread there is for that. There's 4 cards, so I'm going to go with intuitively feel. Any 4 card spread I see, I'm going to go with that, but depending on, let's see here, Destiny. That's a wonderful one. Destiny means like you're being guided. But let's see. There's a lot of, okay, let's see here. Developing skills and knowledge. I feel like I'm not supposed to just get 4 today, even though 4 is a number. Ah, this is a good one. All change. Oh, that makes sense. It just ties in. Okay. What no longer matters? What has been fulfilled? What will carry me forward? The change I must embrace. ties in a lot with what's going on, eh? So I'm gonna actually put that here. So, actually, I'm gonna hold that. Let's see what we have for the first card. What did it say here? The High Priestess. Something about being certain, which ties in with what we're talking about, being kind of like grounded, certain, and knowing to work with the opposites. Because it says here black, B and J. Sorry, I'm laughing at BJ. Okay, but working with the balancing of opposites. So what no longer matters is possibly maybe something to do with holding on to the past or something. Oh, King of Cups, upside down is the second one, which is what has been fulfilled. For anyone who is already a tarot reader, you know what that is. That's great. This one's also upside down, Three of Swords. Okay, that one is what will carry you forward. And there's one, Page of Cups. This was not upside down. So this one's like, I remember this being, what do you call this? Being torn apart, kind of like, from one side to the other, betrayal as well. Oh, that kind of ties in with the whole, like, with Saturn there of the system and also Ceres earlier. Perfect. Okay. Don't you just love when things come around, like, just things, like organically happen? King of Cups. This one's something to do with abundance or something. I totally forgot what that was. But I feel like with this one, he's the illusions of change, possibly. I don't know. I'll see what it is. I can't think right now. Page of Cups. This one is this is the one that's abundance, or something like appreciating what's already there and guidance or something like that. I'm not sure. But that one's with number 4, the change I must embrace. Okay, let's take a look. First one is the High Priestess. High Priestess. It's like a song, right? Okay, let's take a keep going. A secret needs to be revealed. Okay. Trust in your intuition, seeing beyond what is obvious, remembering something of significance. So, in this case, secrets, hidden feelings, intuition, okay. Something that we know no longer matters because it's already here. Okay, the feminine power, silent potential, unconscious, hidden motivation. So things that are hidden no longer need to come through because it's already here. It's already out and open. As for the feminine power, that's already coming through because I feel like that's it's really it's what we're going through and it's fine. Softer energy. Okay. And in this one, King of Cups is what has been fulfilled. Okay, so emotional security, awareness of human nature, a wise person, accepting one's limitations, keeping your head in a crisis, acting from controlled emotion rather than instinct. That's the Saturn in Pisces. Acting controlled, evaluating the situation, creating a balanced atmosphere. There's the balance thing, of course, naturally, with the Libra thing, especially in EOS. Three of Swords, which is again what will carry me forward, what will carry you forward. Three of Swords. Let's go with that. Go to Swords. Okay, so yeah, getting to the heart of the matter. Triumph of logic over emotion. Torn between two lovers. Feeling hurt inside. Discovering a painful truth. This is where the Neptune comes in with conjunct with Libra, like conjunct with Venus. Feeling let down. Feeling others are out to hurt you. Being cheated on. Fear of losing your partner. This is where the fear comes in with Mars, but also something to do with a wounding, more like with Mars, because Mars and also Saturn, that's Saturn conjunct Mars placement, because it's in Pisces, and Pisces is still relationship, but it's like ideal relationships, jealous imaginings, wanting to hurt someone emotionally. That Declidia thing, opposite of Astraea. Right, so not trusting the government, unrequited love with the government, meaning like they're supposed to support you, but it doesn't, or old structures supposed to support you, but it doesn't. And now it's time to like create your own sort of ideals and your own sort of code, your own ways of like, this is what I want now. With Apollo 2, it's like kind of be open to that and be like, yeah, sure, be creative about it. Let's dance. Let's go through it. Yeah. But that will carry you forward, because then, even though you have those feelings, when you sit with it, right, you get to the truth of like really digging deep. When it says you're getting to the heart of the matter, this is where we need to become more present, right? So, and Page of Cups. This is the one that the change we must embrace. Ooh, exciting. Page of Cups. Okay, here we go. Showing your feelings, being offered love or romance, trusting in your intuition, a younger imaginative lover. That's the Apollo talking right there. But also Eos. Eos is that thing, a light-hearted and flirtatious admirer, daydreaming, beginning a love affair, finding it in your heart to forgive. There was that Neptune, Venus placement there. And Venus is in the new signs. I mean, it's in Aries, so that means it's going to be the new lover sort of thing. That's something I kind of forgot, but that's normal. That's okay. So along with the reading that I got earlier, I hope this helps. Thank you for watching. I think that's about it for now. I will see you guys later. Just sit with it. Really just lean into the feelings, right? Do what you have to do that. Be out in nature. I don't really do it that often, but I do find that I can find time to be quiet. I'm doing what I can, so it's not anything perfect, and it shouldn't have to be perfect. So, yeah, I hope that helps though, because I'm kind of feeling a little tapped out now. I did have many things going on today. But anyways, I hope that helps. Much love. Blessings. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.